Europe, a continent that has seen the rise and fall of empires, the birth of revolutions, and the shaping of modern civilization. It is a land steeped in history where every corner tells a story of human triumph and tragedy, a land of majestic mountains, their peaks piercing the sky, standing as silent sentinels over the centuries. These mountains have witnessed countless battles and have been the backdrop to many legends. Verdant forests, teeming with life, where the whispers of the wind tell tales of ancient times, and sparkling seas whose waves have carried explorers, traders and conquerors to distant shores. Once it teemed with human life. Cities bustled with activity, town squares echoed with laughter and chatter, and the streets were alive with the sounds of daily life. People from all walks of life, from merchants to scholars, from artists to warriors, called this land their home. Now, only echoes of their civilization remain. The grand structures that once stood as symbols of human achievement are now mere shadows of their former glory. Overgrown and abandoned, they tell a story of a world that once was. Crumbling cities stand as monuments to a forgotten era. Nature has begun to reclaim what was once hers, with vines creeping up the sides of buildings and trees sprouting from the cracks in the pavement. These ruins are a testament to the passage of time and the impermanence of human endeavors. For in this new age, Europe belongs to the animals. With humans gone, the animals have taken over, exploring the remnants of human civilization and making it their own. They roam freely through the deserted streets and buildings, creating a new world in the midst of the old. And they are locked in a struggle for its control. Different species vie for dominance, each with their own strengths and strategies. The balance of power is constantly shifting, and alliances are formed and broken in the blink of an eye. From the frozen north to the sunny Mediterranean, two forces clash. The landscape of Europe, with its diverse climates and terrains, becomes the battleground for this epic conflict. Each side seeks to control key regions, from the icy tundras to the warm coastal areas. On one side, the Soviet Ducks, a highly disciplined, technologically advanced army. These ducks have harnessed the power of technology to create formidable weapons and defenses. Their precision and organization make them a formidable force on the battlefield. On the other, the guerrilla army, masters of jungle warfare, their strength unmatched. These guerrillas rely on their brute strength and intimate knowledge of the terrain to outmaneuver their enemies. Their guerrilla tactics and sheer power make them a force to be reckoned with. The fate of Europe hangs in the balance. Every skirmish, every battle, tips the scales one way or the other. The outcome of this conflict will determine the future of the continent and the new order that will emerge from the chaos. Who will prevail in this epic battle for dominance? The disciplined and technologically advanced Soviet Ducks, or the powerful and cunning guerrilla army? As the conflict rages on, the answer remains uncertain. But one thing is clear: the struggle for control of Europe will shape the destiny of all who call it home. The seeds of conflict were sown long ago. In the annals of history, there are moments that seem insignificant at the time, but later reveal themselves to be the catalysts for monumental change. This is one such story, a tale of two unlikely factions rising from the shadows of obscurity to challenge the status quo. Deep in the Chernobyl exclusion zone, a peculiar phenomenon occurred. The area, abandoned by humans due to the catastrophic nuclear disaster, became a haven for wildlife. But something extraordinary was happening beneath the surface. The residual radiation, instead of merely causing harm, began to alter the very fabric of life in unexpected ways. Ducks, exposed to residual radiation, developed unusual intelligence and a knack for engineering. These were no ordinary ducks. They were evolving at an unprecedented rate. Their newfound intellect allowed them to create complex gadgets and machinery, far beyond the capabilities of their human counterparts. They began to organize, driven by a collective purpose that was both mysterious and formidable. They formed the Soviet Ducks, their motto, "For motherland, for quackers." With a sense of unity and determination, they adopted the symbols and ethos of the old Soviet Union. Their leader, a brilliant and enigmatic duck named Comrade Quackov inspired them with visions of a new world order, one where ducks would reign supreme. They meticulously planned their strategies, drawing blueprints for a future where they would no longer be under the shadow of human dominance. Meanwhile, in the jungles of Rwanda, a charismatic silverback named Caesar united the gorilla tribes. Caesar was no ordinary gorilla. He possessed a rare combination of strength, wisdom, and vision. Under his leadership, the gorillas began to see themselves not just as individual tribes, but as a unified force with a common destiny. Tired of human encroachment, Caesar sought a new home for his kind. The relentless expansion of human settlements had pushed the gorillas to the brink. Their habitats were being destroyed, and their way of life was under constant threat. Caesar, with his strategic mind, knew that they needed to find a sanctuary where they could thrive without interference. Europe, with its abandoned cities and plentiful vegetation, seemed ideal. The continent, once bustling with human activity, had areas that were now deserted and overgrown. These places offered the perfect refuge for the gorillas, a land where they could rebuild and flourish. Caesar envisioned a new kingdom, a place where his people could live in harmony with nature. Thus, the guerrilla army was born, ready to claim their rightful place. With Caesar at the helm, the guerrillas trained rigorously, preparing for the journey ahead. They were determined to carve out a new existence, one where they could live with dignity and freedom. The stage was set for an epic confrontation as two powerful forces, the Soviet Ducks and the guerrilla army, moved towards an inevitable clash. The world would soon witness the rise of rivals, each fighting for their vision of the future. The first shots of the war were fired in Poland. The prize, a vast abandoned banana plantation, a strategic asset for both sides. The Soviet Ducks, led by the brilliant strategist General Quakashenko, deployed their secret weapon, the MiG-Quack fighter jets. The guerrillas, armed with tree trunks and boulders, fought bravely but were caught off guard. Caesar, however, remained undeterred. The jungle had taught him adaptability. The guerrillas would learn, they would adapt, and they would fight back. The Soviet Ducks possessed technological superiority. In their secret labs, they developed cutting-edge gadgets and weapons that were far ahead of their time. These ducks were not just ordinary birds, they were engineers, scientists, and inventors, constantly pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Their blueprints were filled with innovative designs, from advanced avionics to sophisticated communication devices. Every gadget they created had a purpose, and every purpose was aimed at gaining an upper hand in the ongoing conflict. Their MiG-Quacks ruled the skies. These fighter jets, piloted by the bravest and most skilled ducks, were a marvel of engineering. Equipped with the latest in avionics and weaponry, they could outmaneuver and outgun any opponent. The quacking sound effects, a unique feature of their jets, served as both a psychological weapon and a rallying cry for their comrades on the ground. The skies were their domain, and they defended it fiercely, ensuring that no enemy could gain air superiority. Their tanks, modified tractors fitted with potato cannons, were a force to be reckoned with. These seemingly humble farming vehicles had been transformed into formidable war machines. The potato cannons, though unconventional, were surprisingly effective, capable of launching projectiles with great force and accuracy. The ducks operating these tanks were highly trained, able to navigate rough terrain and deliver devastating blows to their enemies. These tanks were a testament to the ducks' ingenuity and resourcefulness, turning everyday objects into instruments of war. The ducks were masters of strategy, relying on formations and coordinated attacks. Their military operations were meticulously planned, with every detail accounted for. Using maps and radios, they communicated effectively, ensuring that every unit knew its role and position. Their formations were precise, allowing them to execute complex maneuvers and overwhelm their enemies with coordinated strikes. This level of organization and discipline made them a formidable force on the battlefield, capable of turning the tide of any engagement. The guerrilla army, however, had the advantage of brute strength and guerrilla tactics. These powerful primates relied on their physical prowess and cunning to outmatch their opponents. Their muscles were not just for show. They could deliver crushing blows and lift heavy objects with ease. Their jungle tactics, honed over years of living in the wild, allowed them to move silently and strike without warning. They were masters of ambush, using their environment to their advantage and catching their enemies off guard. They used camouflage expertly, disappearing into forests and ambushing duck patrols. Their ability to blend into their surroundings made them nearly invisible, allowing them to observe and strike at the perfect moment. From the treetops, they could launch surprise attacks, raining down on unsuspecting ducks with devastating force. This element of surprise was a key component of their strategy, keeping their enemies constantly on edge and unsure of when or where the next attack would come. Their ability to scale buildings and navigate ruined cities gave them an edge in urban warfare. These guerrillas were not just jungle fighters. They were adaptable and could thrive in any environment. In the chaos of a ruined city, they moved with agility and precision, climbing walls and leaping across rooftops. This mobility allowed them to outflank their enemies and strike from unexpected angles. Their knowledge of urban terrain turned the concrete jungle into their playground, making them a formidable opponent in any setting. The conflict raged on, a clash of contrasting styles. The technological prowess of the Soviet ducks clashed with the raw power and cunning of the guerrilla army. Each side had its strengths and weaknesses, and the battles were fierce and unpredictable. The skies were filled with the roar of migquacks, while the ground shook with the thunder of potato cannons and the heavy footsteps of charging guerrillas. It was a war like no other, a testament to the ingenuity and determination of both sides. As the conflict continued, it became clear that this was not just a battle for territory, but a struggle for survival and supremacy.